The great meeting hall on Nexus Prime was full of nervous voices. Representatives from across the galaxy sat in their special chairs, each one made for their different body types. The air smelled like fear and worry. Elder Veltar walked slowly to the center of the room. His forearms shook a little as he moved. He was very old, even for his people. He had seen many wars and many mistakes. Today, he hoped to stop the biggest mistake of all. "Friends of the Council," Veltar said in his deep voice, "we have a problem. A very big problem." The room went quiet. Everyone knew that when Veltar spoke like this, something bad was coming. "The Kethian hegemony wants our help," Veltar continued. "They want to take over new worlds. They want to attack the human colonies in Sector 7. A wave of shocked sounds filled the room. Some aliens made clicking noises. Others hissed. A few just stared with wide eyes. Ambassador Crix of the Kethian hegemony stood up. He was tall and strong, with blue metal skin that shined in the light. His sharp teeth clicked when he talked. He looked very proud and very sure of himself. "Yes, we want those worlds," Crix said loudly. "The humans are weak. They have only a few ships and simple weapons. We have conquered 17 star systems already. The humans will be easy." Elder Veltar closed his ancient eyes. He looked like someone had just told him that his whole family had died. "You cannot do this," Veltar said quietly. "There is a rule, the oldest rule in our galaxy, the first thing we teach our children when they learn about space." "What rule?" Crix asked, but he was already smiling like he thought it was funny. Ambassador Thys of the Serpentine Collective spoke up. Her snake-like body coiled nervously. "Do not mess with humans," she whispered. "Never, ever mess with humans." Crix laughed. It was a harsh sound that made several aliens move back in their seats. "Humans? Those little pink creatures who grow food and build simple things? Our spies have watched them. They have weak ships and old weapons. They spend most of their time farming and teaching children. They are not warriors." "That is exactly why you should fear them," Veltar said. His voice was getting stronger now, filled with old memories and old fear. "Listen to me, young Crix. I am going to tell you something that might save your people." Veltar pressed a button, and the room filled with holographic images. Old battle records appeared in the air. Ancient ship logs. Pictures of destroyed worlds. All of them had the same marking, a warning in dozens of alien languages. 3,000 years ago, Veltar began, there was an empire called the Zephyrians. They were strong, like you. They had millions of soldiers and thousands of ships. They ruled over 50 worlds. The images showed the Zephyrian Empire at its peak. Great cities floating in space. Massive fleets of warships. Billions of proud warriors. The Zephyrians found a small human colony, Veltar continued. Just farmers, really. 300 humans growing food on a little world. The Zephyrians decided to take that world. They killed all the humans there. Crix was still smiling, but some of the other aliens in the room had started to look worried. "And then?" Crix asked. "And then the humans came," Veltar said simply. "Not armies, not fleets, just humans. Farmers, teachers, engineers, shopkeepers. Regular people who had been living quiet lives." The holographic display changed. It showed what happened next. The images were terrible and beautiful and frightening all at the same time. In 6 months, the entire Zephyrian species was gone, Veltar said. Every world they owned was empty. Every ship was destroyed. Every city was turned to glass. 50 worlds, billions of people, the work of thousands of years, all gone. That is impossible, Crix said, but his voice was not as sure as before. The humans who did this went home afterward, Veltar continued. They went back to their farms and their schools and their little shops. They acted like nothing had happened. When other species asked them about it, they just said that someone had hurt their people, so they fixed the problem. The room was completely silent now. Even Crix had stopped smiling. We studied the battle records, Veltar said. We tried to understand how farmers and teachers could destroy an entire empire. Do you know what we learned? No one answered. We learned that humans do not fight wars the way we do. We fight to win territory or resources or glory. Humans fight to protect the people they love. And when you threaten the people they love, they do not become soldiers. They become something much worse. Ambassador Theiss spoke again, her voice shaking. They become death itself. They become the end of worlds. They become the thing that hunts you in your nightmares. Crix looked around the room. He could see fear in every alien face. Even the strongest warriors looked scared. You are all afraid of stories, Crix said, but his voice was quieter now. Old stories from long ago. The humans today are not the same as the humans from 3,000 years ago. You are right, Veltar said sadly. They are much worse now. They have had 3,000 years to get better at what they do. Elder Veltar pressed another button. New images appeared. These were recent spy reports from human space. Look at their worlds, Veltar said. What do you see? Crix studied the images. Farms, schools, families, simple buildings, peaceful people. Exactly, Veltar said. Now look closer. Look at their farming equipment. Look at their school, buildings. Look at their simple ships. As Crix looked more carefully, his blue skin started to turn pale. The farming equipment had weapon ports hidden in it. The school buildings had defensive systems built into their walls. The simple merchant ships had military-grade engines and armor. Every human world is a fortress, Veltar explained. Every human farmer is a soldier. Every human teacher is a tactical expert. Every human merchant is a spy. They have built their entire civilization to look harmless while being the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. But why? Crix asked. If they are so powerful, why do they hide it? Because they do not want to rule the galaxy, Veltar said. They just want to be left alone to live their quiet lives. But if you threaten those quiet lives, if you hurt their children or destroy their homes, then you will learn why we made the rule. Elder Veltar turned off the holographic display and looked directly at Crix. I am going to tell you this one time. And I hope you listen. Cancel your attack on the human colonies. Go home. Find other worlds to conquer. There are millions of species in this galaxy who will fight you in ways you understand. Do not choose the one species that will end your entire civilization before breakfast and then go back to teaching kindergarten. Crix stood there for a long moment, thinking. All around him, the other ambassadors waited to see what he would decide. Finally, Crix straightened up and clicked his teeth together in a Cathian gesture of determination. The Cathian hegemony is not afraid of human farmers and teachers, he announced. We will take their worlds and show the galaxy that the age of human fear is over. Elder Veltar closed his eyes and sighed deeply. Then may whatever gods you worship have mercy on your souls, he said quietly, because the humans will not. The morning sun shone down on the rice fields of New Busan. The green plants swayed in the gentle breeze, and children played between the rows while their parents worked. It was a peaceful day on a peaceful world. Kim Tae-ho sat in his office, looking out the window at the farms. He was the colony administrator, which meant he took care of boring things like crop reports and supply requests. He was a quiet man with kind eyes and hands that were rough from years of farm work. The communication device on his desk started beeping. Kim Tae-ho sighed and pressed the button to answer it. He expected it to be another farmer asking about fertilizer or maybe a teacher wanting new books for the school. Instead, a harsh alien voice filled the room. The translator made it sound even worse. "This is Fleet Commander Zektar of the Keithian Hegemony," the voice said. "You are speaking to the colony of New Busan. Surrender your world immediately or we will destroy you all." Kim Tae-ho stared at the communication device for a moment. Then he looked out the window again at the children playing in the fields. A little girl was chasing butterflies. A boy was helping his father fix a farming robot. "I really hoped we would not have to do this again," Kim Tae-ho said quietly. His deputy administrator, Park Ji-woo, came into the office. She was a young woman who had moved to New Busan to teach at the local school. She heard the alien voice, and her face went very serious. "How many ships?" she asked. Kim Tae-ho checked his computer. 500 Keithian warships. They will be here in 6 hours. Park Ji-woo nodded. "I will start calling the parents to pick up their children from school." "Wait," Kim Tae-ho said. He pressed a different button on his desk. "Let me send the message first." To anyone listening, Kim Tae-ho's message sounded like a simple distress call. He asked for help and said that his colony was under attack. He gave their location and asked any nearby ships to come help them. But the message had special codes hidden in it. Codes that no alien species knew about. Codes that would tell every human in 50 light years exactly what was happening. Within minutes, things started to change across human space. On a mining station near Alpha Centauri, Captain Yoon Seo-jun was eating lunch when his communication device started flashing red. He read the message and stood up so fast that his chair fell over. "All crew to stations," he announced over the ship's speakers. "We are going to New Busan. Maximum speed." His crew did not ask questions. They just ran to their positions and started the engines. To anyone watching, the peaceful trader looked like an ordinary merchant ship rushing to help with an emergency. But as soon as they were away from the station, the ship began to change. Hidden panels slid open to reveal weapon ports. The cargo. Bays opened to show fighter ships inside. The merchant registration changed to show its real name. HMS Retribution. Captain Yoon Seo-jun was not really a merchant. He was a naval officer, and his ship was one of hundreds of hidden warships that pretended to be civilian vessels. All across human space, the same thing was happening. Farmers left their fields and climbed into ships that rose from underground. Hangars. Teachers said goodbye to their students and reported to hidden military bases. Shop owners locked their doors and activated weapons that had been disguised as everyday equipment. On Earth, Admiral Lee So-min sat in her office on Luna Base. She was reading the message from New Busan when her aide, Commander Choi Min-ho, knocked on her door. "Admiral," he said, "we have confirmation. The Keithians ignored the warnings." Admiral Lee So-min was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She had been a farmer before she became a soldier, and she still grew vegetables in her office. She looked at her tomato plants and sighed. "Then we implement Protocol Omega," she said quietly. "No survivors, no witnesses, no exceptions." Commander Choi Min-ho hesitated. Admiral, are you sure? Protocol Omega has not been used since the Zephyrian War. They attacked our farmers, Commander. They threatened our children, yes, I am sure. Back on New Busan, Kim Tae-ho was explaining the situation to the Colony Council. 12 people sat around a table in the community center. They were farmers, teachers, mechanics, and doctors. They looked like ordinary people living ordinary lives. The Kethians will be here soon, Kim Tae-ho said. We need to decide how to handle this. How many ships do we have? Asked Dr. Lim Hae-won, who ran the colony's medical center. 12 patrol ships, said Engineer Oh Sung-min. But they are just for emergencies. They cannot fight 500 warships. Then we surrender? Asked Teacher Nam Yoon-ji. Kim Tae-ho shook his head. No, we follow the plan. We let them land. We let them think they have won. And then we wait for the cavalry to arrive. The Colony Council members nodded. They all knew the plan. Every human colony had the same plan. What about the children? Asked Park Ji-woo. The children go to the safe rooms under the school, Kim Tae-ho said. The elderly go to the bunkers under the hospital. Everyone else stays in their homes and acts afraid. We do not have to act, said Oh Sung-min. I am afraid. I hate it when we have to do this. We all hate it, Kim Tae-ho said. But this is who we are. This is what we do when someone threatens our families. 6 hours later, the Kethian fleet arrived at New Busan. Commander Zektar looked at the planet through his ship's viewing screen and smiled. It looked exactly like his intelligence reports had said. A simple farming world with weak defenses. Begin. The attack, he ordered. The 12 human patrol ships came out to meet the Kethian fleet. They were small and old with basic weapons and thin armor. The Kethians destroyed them easily. The planetary defense system tried to stop the invasion, but it was designed for pirates and asteroids, not for a real military attack. The Kethian ships broke through the shields in minutes. Land the troops, Commander Zektar ordered. Take the main cities, round up the humans. As the Kethian soldiers landed on New Busan, they found exactly what they expected. Scared humans hiding in their houses, children crying, and no real resistance. The Kethians marched through the streets of New Seoul, the colony's capital city. They set up checkpoints and started searching buildings. Everything was going according to plan. But then, strange things started happening. A young girl named Kang Hye-jin walked up to a Kethian soldier. She was maybe 16 years old, with a school uniform and a backpack. She looked completely harmless. Excuse me, she said in broken Kethian language. You should have listened to the elder. The Kethian soldier pointed his weapon at her. Get back, human child. Kang Hye-jin did not run away. She did not cry. She just looked at the soldier with sad eyes. We are sorry for what is about to happen to you, she said. The soldier was confused. Why was this human child not afraid? Why was she talking about being sorry? Before he could ask, his communication device started crackling with urgent messages from the fleet in orbit. Unknown ships approaching, came the panicked voice of a Kethian radar operator. Hundreds of them! Commander Zektar rushed to his command center. On the screen, he could see dots of light appearing all around the system. Ships were coming out of hyperspace dozens at a time. What kind of ships? He demanded. They look like merchant vessels, sir. Cargo ships, mining ships, some passenger liners. Zektar relaxed a little. Probably civilians running away from the fighting. Ignore them. But his radar operator sounded worried. Sir, they are not running away. They are coming toward us. And sir, their energy readings are very strange. On the surface of New Busan, Kim Tae-ho stood in his office and watched the Kethian soldiers patrolling his streets. His communication device beeped softly. "This is Captain Yoon Seo-jun of the Retribution," a familiar voice said. "We are 18 minutes out. Are the children safe?" "The children are safe," Kim Tae-ho replied. "The civilians are in the shelters. You are cleared for educational activities." "Understood. Beginning lesson plan now." Kim Tae-ho turned to Park Ji-woo, who was standing by the window. "You might want to step away from the glass," he said gently. "Class is about to start." The first thing that surprised Commander Zektar was how fast the human ships moved. One moment they were dots on the edge of his sensors, and the next moment they were right on top of his fleet. The second thing that surprised him was how they looked when they got close. The ship that had been marked as a grain transport was now clearly a massive warship. Its hull was covered with weapon ports that had not been there before. Its engines glowed with power that no civilian ship should have. "Sir," his radar operator said in a shaky voice, "the Peaceful Trader just changed its registration. It is now calling itself the HMS Retribution." "That is impossible," Zektar said. "Ships cannot just change what they are." But as he watched, more and more of the approaching vessels revealed their true nature. Cargo ships opened up to show fighter bays inside. Mining ships powered up weapons that could crack asteroids. Even a passenger liner was showing missile launchers where the windows used to be. "All ships, battle stations," Zektar ordered. "Prepare to engage the human fleet." Captain Yoon Seo-jun sat on the bridge of the Retribution and spoke calmly to his crew. Most of them were people who had been living normal lives just hours before. The woman at the weapons console used to run a flower shop. The man at the navigation station was a high school math teacher. "Remember," Captain Yoon said, "we were never here. After this is over, we go back to our normal lives. The galaxy does not need to know what we are capable of." "Kethian fleet is powering weapons," reported the former flower shop owner. "They outnumber us 3-1. 3-1, Captain Yoon repeated thoughtfully. "That hardly seems fair. Maybe we should let more of them live." On another ship, the Terra's Vengeance, Captain Kim Jae-won was giving similar orders to his crew. His ship was so big that it had its own weather inside. Clouds formed near the ceiling of the main hangar bay. "How long since we last did this?" he asked his first officer. 37 years, sir. The Centauri Pirates incident." "Ah, yes. That was over quickly, too." Back on the surface of New Busan, the Kethian soldiers were starting to notice that something was wrong. The humans they had captured were not acting the way captured people usually acted. They were not begging or crying or trying to escape. They were just waiting. Oh Sung-min sat in his prison cell and watched the Kethian guards through the bars. One of the guards was listening to reports from the fleet battle on his radio. "Unknown human vessels engaging our fleet." The radio crackled. "They appear to have military-grade weapons hidden inside civilian ships." Oh Sung-min started to laugh. It was a quiet laugh at first, but it got louder and louder until every Kethian guard in the building could hear it. "What is so funny, human?" one of the guards demanded. "You do not understand," Oh Sung-min said, wiping tears from his eyes. "We were not fighting you. We were buying time." "Time for what?" "Time for our real soldiers to get here. The space battle lasted exactly 14 minutes. The Kethian fleet fired first, sending thousands of plasma bolts and missiles toward the human ships. It should have been enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The human ships made the weapons disappear. Some of the plasma bolts hit invisible barriers and just stopped. Some of the missiles turned around and flew back at the ships that fired. them. Some of the attacks just vanished completely, as if they had never existed. Then the human ships fired back. What came out of their weapons was not plasma or missiles or anything the Kethians recognized. It was pure energy that moved faster, then light and hit harder than a falling star. The first Kethian battleship simply stopped existing. 1 second it was there, and the next second there was empty space. The second battleship tried to run, but something grabbed it and pulled it apart like a child taking apart a toy. The third battleship surrendered, but it did not matter. The humans were not taking prisoners today. "This is Captain Yoon of the Human Colonial Defense Force," came a voice over all the Kethian communication channels. "Kethian forces, you have violated the oldest rule in the galaxy. Prepare for extraction." Commander Zektar watched his entire fleet disappear from his sensors. 500 ships, the pride of the Kethian military, were gone in less time than it took to eat a meal. "How?" he whispered. "How is this possible?" He tried to contact his home world, but his communications were being blocked. He tried to escape in a shuttle, but his ship's engines would not start. He was trapped on a planet full of humans, and he was beginning to understand that this was exactly where they wanted him. The first human dropship landed in the main square of New Seoul. It was not very big, and it looked like the kind of ship that might carry supplies or mail between colonies, but when the cargo bay opened, something stepped out that made every Kethian soldier take a step backward. Colonel Han Yu-jin was not very tall, and she did not look very strong. She had short black hair and wore a simple gray uniform. But there was something about her eyes that made hardened warriors want to run and hide. She walked slowly across the square, and everywhere she stepped, Kethian soldiers moved out of her way. She was not pointing a weapon at them. She was not shouting orders. She was just walking. But something about the way she moved made it clear that she was the most dangerous thing on the planet. "Gentlemen," she said in perfect Kethian language, "class is now in session. Today's lesson is about why the galaxy fears humanity." Behind her, more humans were getting out of the dropship. They looked like ordinary people. A young man who might have been a student. An older woman who looked like someone's grandmother. A teenager who still had school books in her backpack. But they moved like soldiers. No, they moved like something worse than soldiers. "I am Colonel Han Yu-jin of the Human Death Corps," she continued. "We are here to provide you with an educational experience. Please pay attention because this lesson will determine whether your species continues to exist." One of the Kethian officers, a brave soldier named Tekvar, stepped forward. "We are not afraid of you, human. We are warriors of the hegemony." Colonel Han Yu-jin smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Good," she said. "Fear would make this too easy. What happened next was not a battle. It was a demonstration. The Kethians had been trained to fight other Kethians, or aliens that fought like Kethians. They knew how to use cover and tactics and formations. They knew how to be brave and how to die with honor. But the humans did not fight like anything the Kethians had ever seen. Sergeant Lim Da-young, who used to teach kindergarten, walked directly into a group of 20 Kethian soldiers. They all fired at her at the same time. None of their shots hit her. She moved like water, flowing around their attacks without seeming to try. When she reached them, she did not kill them. Instead, she touched each soldier on the forehead, and they fell, down unconscious, all 20 of them in less than 10 seconds. "Sleep well," she said gently. "When you wake up, this will all be over." Private Bae Jun-ho, who was only 18 years old, captured an entire Kethian platoon, using nothing but a flashlight and some string. He did not hurt any of them. He just talked to them in a quiet voice until they put down their weapons and sat down on the ground. The thing about humans, he explained to the confused prisoners, is that we do not just prepare for war. We prepare for the war after the war and the war after that. Major Park Jun-woo, who had been an elementary school principal before this, took over the Kethian command post by walking through the front door. The guards tried to stop him, but he just smiled and kept walking. Somehow, none of their weapons would fire when they pointed them at him. "How are you doing this?" Commander Zektar demanded when Park Jun-woo sat down in his command chair. "Doing what?" Park Jun-woo asked innocently. "The weapons, the shields, the impossible movements? How?" "Oh, that," Park Jun-woo said. "We have been practicing." "Practicing for how long?" "About 3,000 years. As the Kethian resistance crumbled, Colonel Han Yu-jin allowed one transport ship to escape. She personally escorted the survivors to their ship and made sure they had enough fuel to reach Kethian space. "You are going to carry a message," she told them. "Are you listening?" The terrified Kethian pilot nodded. "You have 3 choices," Colonel Han Yu-jin said. 1. Withdraw all Kethian forces from human space immediately and apologize to the Galactic Council. 2. Continue this conflict and face the complete extinction of your species. 3. Escalate this conflict and learn why the ancient civilizations speak our name in whispers. She paused and looked directly at the pilot. "Choose wisely. This is the only warning you will receive." The transport ship flew away as fast as its engines could carry it, but before it left the system, the pilot sent one last message to his home. "World, they are not what they seem," he screamed into his radio. "The humans have been hiding their true nature. Their farmers are soldiers, their teachers are weapons, their entire civilization is a trap." The message was received by the Kethian High Command, but they did not believe it. How could farmers and teachers defeat their mighty military? They decided to send everything they had. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon in the Kethian Empire would be used to crush these impossible humans. On Luna Base, Admiral Lee So-min received the intelligence about the Kethian mobilization. She stood in her office looking at her tomato, plants, and sighed. "They chose extinction," she said to Commander Choi Min-ho. "Signal all deep space." The Kethian survivors who escaped from New Busan brought their message to the Hegemony High Command. They told their leaders about the impossible humans who moved like ghosts and fought like demons. They described weapons that defied physics, and soldiers who seemed to know what would happen before it happened. The High Command did not believe them. "Impossible," declared Supreme War Leader Kralthak, the most powerful Kethian in the Empire. "Our intelligence is clear. Humans are weak farmers and teachers. A few lucky tricks do not make them dangerous." "But, sir," the surviving pilot pleaded, "you did not see what I saw. They knew everything about us. They knew how we would fight before we even started fighting." Kralthak waved his clawed hand dismissively. "Fear makes cowards see monsters in shadows. We will show these humans what real military power looks like." Within days, every Kethian warship in the Empire was moving toward human space. 3,000 ships carrying 2 million soldiers. It was the largest military force the Kethians had ever assembled. Back on New Busan, Colonel Han Yu-jin was teaching her captured Kethian prisoners about human military doctrine. She had set up a classroom in the community center with charts and diagrams on the walls. "Lesson 1, she said to the confused alien soldiers sitting in small plastic chairs meant for children. Humans do not fight wars. We solve problems. Commander Zektar, who was sitting in the front row, raised his hand. What is the difference? When you fight a war, you try to defeat your enemy, Colonel Han explained patiently. When we solve a problem, we remove the source of the problem completely. She pointed to a chart on the wall that showed the Zephyrian Empire. Then she pointed to another chart that showed empty space. The Zephyrians were a problem. We solved them. Now they are not a problem anymore. Sergeant Lim De-young, the former kindergarten teacher, was running a different kind of lesson in the next room. She was showing Keithian soldiers how humans prepared for conflicts. We study every species in the galaxy, she explained while setting up a holographic display. We learn their languages, their cultures, their military tactics, their psychology. We know how they think before they know how they think. The display showed detailed files on Keithian society, battle plans, psychological profiles, even the personal histories of individual Keithian leaders. We have been studying your people for 50 years, Lim De-young continued. We know that your warriors value honor above survival. We know that you charge straight at your enemies instead of using cover. We know that you never retreat, even when retreating would be smart. One of the Keithian prisoners looked sick. You have been planning to fight us for 50 years. Oh no, Lim De-young said with a sweet smile. We have been planning to fight everyone for thousands of years. Your species just happened to be particularly easy to predict. Meanwhile, in space, something was happening that would have terrified the Keithian fleet if they had been able to see it. Ships were appearing from nowhere, not coming out of hyperspace, not arriving from distant systems, but literally materializing from empty space. They came from hidden dimensions that most species did not even know existed. The human deep space fleet was waking up. Captain Kim Jae-won stood on the bridge of the Terra's Vengeance and watched as his ship finished transitioning from its hiding place between dimensions. The ship was so large that it had cities inside it, real cities, with parks and schools and theaters. Status. Report, he said to his crew. All systems operational, reported his first officer, Commander Lee Min-jung. We have 15,000 other vessels reporting ready for final protocol. 15,000? Captain Kim asked. I thought we only had 10,000 deep space ships. The reserves have been activated, sir. Ships that have been sleeping for centuries are coming online. Captain Kim nodded. The reserves were ships that had been built during the dark times, when humanity first learned that the galaxy was a dangerous place. Ships designed not to fight battles, but to end civilizations. On the planet Cathara Prime, the homeworld of the Keithian Empire, Supreme War Leader Kralthak was giving a speech to his people. Billions of Keithians watched on their communication screens as their leader promised them victory over the weak humans. We will show the galaxy that the age of human fear is over, Kralthak declared. We will take their worlds and make them our slaves. We will prove that the Keithian hegemony is the strongest power in space. The crowd cheered and roared their approval. They believed their leader. They had no reason not to believe him, but in a quiet observation post on one of Cathara Prime's moons, a human spy named Cho Hee-jin was recording everything. She had been living on the Keithian homeworld for 10 years, pretending to be a refugee from a destroyed human colony. The Keithians had taken pity on her and given her a job in their communications center. They had no idea that she was one of humanity's most skilled intelligence agents. This is Agent Cho, she whispered into her hidden transmitter. Keithian leadership has committed to total war. They are mobilizing their entire civilian population. Recommend final protocol activation. The message was received by Admiral Lee So-min on Luna Base. She sat in her office for a long time, looking at her tomato plants and thinking about the choice the Kethians had made. Then she pressed a button on her desk. All commands, this is Admiral Lee. Execute final protocol. Authorization Omega-77. No survivors. Across human space, warships that had been disguised as everything from asteroid miners to garbage collectors began to reveal their true nature. Space stations that looked like research facilities opened up to show massive weapon arrays. Even some planets that appeared to be simple farming worlds activated defensive systems that could destroy entire fleets. The hidden human military, built up over 3,000 years of preparation, was finally showing itself to the galaxy. On New Busan, Kim Tae-ho was back to working in his rice fields when Park Ji-woo came running from the communications center. "Tae-ho!" she called. "You need to see this." They watched the news feeds together on a small screen in Kim Tae-ho's office. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy. Human ships were appearing everywhere, moving faster than anyone thought possible, carrying weapons that shouldn't exist. How many ships do we actually have? Park Ji-woo asked quietly. Kim Tae-ho was quiet for a moment. "More than we need," he said finally. "We always have more than we need." The Kethian fleet, 3,000 ships strong, was still traveling toward human space when they started detecting the human deep space vessels. At first, the Kethian sensors showed dozens of ships, then hundreds, then thousands. "Sir," the Kethian fleet commander reported to Supreme War Leader Kralthak, "we are detecting massive human fleet movements. Numbers are uncertain." "How uncertain?" Kralthak demanded. "Somewhere between 10,000 and 50,000 vessels, sir. Our sensors cannot get an accurate count." Kralthak felt a cold feeling in his stomach, but he pushed it away. "Impossible. Human space only has a few hundred colonies. They cannot possibly have that many ships." But as the reports kept coming in, the numbers kept getting worse. Human ships were appearing from directions that didn't make sense. Some seemed to be coming from the past. Others appeared to be arriving from parallel dimensions. Colonel Han Yu-jin was still teaching her class of Kethian prisoners when the news arrived. She paused in her lecture about human psychological warfare to read the report. "It appears your leaders have made their choice," she told the prisoners. "They have decided to fight us with everything they have." Commander Zektar looked up from his tiny plastic chair. "And what will you do?" Colonel Han Yu-jin folded the report carefully and put it in her pocket. "We will do what we always do. We will solve the problem." "Will you kill all of us?" "That depends," Colonel Han said thoughtfully. "Do you want to keep being a problem?" She walked to the window and looked out at the children playing in the fields again. They were back to their games now that the danger was over. They were laughing and running and having fun just like children should. "You know what the real tragedy is?" Colonel Han asked. "If your people had just left us alone, none of this would be happening. We would have kept farming our fields and teaching our children and building our little towns. We would have traded with you and shared our music and our stories. We might even have been friends." She turned back to face the Kethian prisoners. "But you chose to hurt our children. You chose to threaten our families. You chose to break the oldest rule in the galaxy." Colonel Han Yu-jin walked to the door, then paused and looked back. "Lesson number 2, she said quietly. When humans say they will do something, they mean it. When we say we will protect our families, we mean it. And when we say we will end your entire civilization if you threaten what we love." She smiled sadly. We mean that too. The Kethian fleet arrived at the edge of human space, expecting to find scattered colonies and weak defenses. Instead, they found something that made their bravest warriors want to turn around and go home. A wall of ships stretched across space, as far as their sensors could reach. Not hundreds or thousands, but tens of thousands of human vessels arranged in perfect formation. Some were so large that they had their own gravity. Others were so advanced that they seemed to bend space around. Them Fleet Commander Varkesh, leading the Kethian armada, stared at his tactical display in disbelief. How is this possible? Where did all these ships come from? His intelligence officer, a young Kethian named Tokmar, was frantically checking his data. Sir, according to our files, human space only has 250 military vessels. Total! Then our files are wrong, Varkesh said grimly. Signal the fleet. Battle formation. But before the Kethians could arrange themselves for attack, a voice came over all their communication channels. It was calm and patient, like a teacher talking to confused students. This is Admiral Lee So-min of the Human Defense Force, the voice said. Kethian fleet, you are trespassing in human space. You have attacked our colonies and threatened our families. You now have one choice remaining. The voice paused, and in that silence, every Kethian warrior felt a chill run down their spine. Surrender unconditionally, or be destroyed completely. You have 30 seconds to decide. Fleet Commander Varkesh activated his own transmitter. This is the Kethian Hegemony Fleet. We do not surrender to farmers and shopkeepers. We are here to claim these worlds for our empire. 20 seconds. Admiral Lee's voice replied, still perfectly calm. Varkesh looked at his tactical display. 3,000 Kethian ships against... He couldn't even count how many human vessels. But Kethians were warriors. They did not back down from any fight. All ships, open fire, he commanded. The battle lasted 17 minutes. The Kethian fleet fired everything they had. Plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, fusion bombs, gravity mines, enough firepower to destroy a solar system. The humans made it all disappear. Some of the weapons simply stopped existing when they got near the human ships. Others turned around and exploded harmlessly in empty space. A few seemed to fall into invisible holes and vanish forever. Then the humans fired back. What came from their weapons was not energy or matter or anything the Kethians understood. It was pure force that reached across space and touched each Kethian ship individually. Some ships simply came apart at the seams. Others folded in on themselves and became tiny balls of metal. A few just faded away like morning mist. The Terra's Vengeance, Captain Kim Jae-won's massive flagship, didn't even use weapons. It just moved forward slowly, and any Kethian ship that got in its way was gently pushed aside into a parallel dimension where it could float harmlessly until the battle was over. This is excessive, Captain Kim said to his crew as he watched the one-sided destruction. We should have sent fewer ships. Sir, his tactical officer replied. Admiral Lee wanted to make sure the lesson was clear. Fleet Commander Varkesh watched his entire armada disappear from his sensors. 3,000 ships, the pride of the Kethian military, were gone. He was the only survivor, floating alone in his command ship. A human vessel approached him. It was small and simple, the kind of ship that might deliver mail between planets, but Varkesh could feel the power radiating from it like heat from a star. This is Captain Song Min-jung, came a woman's voice. Kethian commander, prepare to be boarded. I will not surrender, Varkesh said, though his voice was shaking. You already have, Captain Song replied gently. You just don't know it yet. The human ship didn't use weapons or force fields to capture Varkesh's vessel. It simply asked his ship's computer to shut down, and the computer obeyed. Every system on the Kethian command ship turned itself off voluntarily. When Captain Song came aboard, she was alone and unarmed. She was a small woman with kind eyes who looked like she might teach music at a local school. How? Varkesh asked. How did you make my ship obey you? We asked nicely, Captain Song said. Your ship's computer understands that resistance is pointless. Computers are very logical that way. She looked around Varkesh's command center with professional interest. This is quite impressive. Your people build good ships. It's a shame you use them to attack children. Meanwhile, the human fleet was moving toward Kethera Prime, the Kethian homeworld. But they were not moving like conquerors. They moved like teachers coming to give a very important lesson. On Kethera Prime, Supreme War Leader Kralthak was receiving desperate reports from across his empire. Human ships were appearing at every Kethian military base, every weapons factory, every government building. But they were not attacking, they were just waiting. What do they want? Kralthak demanded. Agent Cho Hee-jin, still disguised as a refugee in the communications center, smiled to herself as she listened to the panicked reports. She knew exactly what the humans wanted. Admiral Lee So-min's flagship, the Human Will, took position directly above Kethera Prime's capital city. It was not a large ship compared to some in the human fleet, but it radiated authority like a throne. From her command bridge, Admiral Lee looked down at the planet where billions of Kethians lived and worked and raised their families. She thought about her own family back on Earth, about the garden she tended in her spare time, about the peaceful life she wanted to return to. Then she opened a communication channel to the entire Kethian Empire. People of the Kethian hegemony, her voice echoed across their worlds. I am Admiral Lee So-min of the Human Defense Force. Your leaders have made a grave error. They attacked our colonies. They threatened our children. They violated the oldest rule in the galaxy. On every Kethian world, in every city and town and village, beings stopped what they were doing to listen. But we are not monsters, Admiral Lee continued. We are not conquerors. We are farmers and teachers, engineers and artists who want nothing more than to live in peace. The transmission showed images of human colonies, children playing in gardens, families eating together, communities working side by side to build schools and hospitals and parks. This is what your leaders attacked. This is what we protect. Admiral Lee paused, looking out at the planet below. You now have a choice. Your military is gone. Your weapons are destroyed. Your leaders can no longer threaten anyone. You can surrender and accept our terms, or you can face the same fate as the Zephyrian Empire. She let that sink in for a moment. If you choose surrender, we will leave your worlds in peace. We will help you rebuild. We will even share our technology with you if you promise to use it for building instead of destroying. Supreme War Leader Kralthak, listening from his bunker deep beneath the capital city, felt the weight of those words. He knew about the Zephyrian Empire. Every species in the galaxy knew that story. But if you choose to continue fighting, Admiral, Lee's voice continued, if you try to harm our people again, then we will do what we did to the Zephyrians. We will erase your species from existence. Not in anger, not in hatred, but simply because you will have become a problem that needs to be solved. The communication channel went silent. Across the Kethian Empire, Billions of beings waited to see what their leaders would decide. In his bunker, Kralthak looked at his advisors. They were all warriors, proud and strong, but they had seen what the humans could do. They had watched their entire military disappear like smoke. "If we surrender," one advisor said quietly, "we will be humiliated. The other species will mock us." "If we do not surrender," another advisor replied, "we will be extinct. Dead beings cannot feel humiliation." Kralthak thought about his people, his children, his grandchildren. He thought about the beautiful cities on Cathara Prime, the art and music and stories that made Kethian culture special. Then he thought about the empty space where the Zephyrian Empire used to be. "Signal the human fleet," he said finally. "We surrender." The formal surrender ceremony took place on Nexus Prime, where this had all started. Elder Veltar of the Quilarian Empire watched as Supreme War Leader Kralthak signed the documents that placed his empire under human protection. "Do you understand now?" Veltar asked quietly. Kralthak nodded slowly. "We thought they were weak because they chose peace. We did not understand that they choose peace because they are strong. The strongest species in the galaxy," Veltar agreed. "And the most dangerous precisely because they do not want to be dangerous." Back on New Busan, Kim Tae-ho was working in his rice fields again when Park Ji-woo came to find him. The morning sun was shining on the green plants, and children were playing between the rows while their parents worked. "The Kathians have agreed to our terms," she told him. "Full withdrawal, reparations, and a promise never to threaten human space again." Kim Tae-ho nodded and continued working. "Good. What about our ships? Already returning to their hiding places. By tomorrow, the galaxy will think we only have a few hundred patrol vessels again." "Perfect." Kim Tae-ho straightened up and looked out over his fields. In the distance, a ship was taking off from the spaceport. It looked like a simple grain transport, but Kim Tae-ho knew it was really one of the human dreadnoughts returning to its secret base. "Any regrets?" Park Ji-woo asked. Kim Tae-ho was quiet for a moment, thinking about the Kethian soldiers.